Welcome to Ladies Talk Show. This is your host, Leah Richheimer. You guys are asking Gavalda questions, like awesome questions. It's like, it's invigorating, it's exciting, and we are here for you. We are trying to help you have an Aliyah. Every one of you have an Aliyah in Shalom Bayis starting right now. Okay, what you got for me, Gila? And send your questions in info@ladiestalkshow.com. Thanks. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So Shani's asking, I get the feeling from my husband often that he doesn't think I am a good mother. My kids are all well looked after. I think it's just that we come from
My kids are all what?
well looked after.
Oh, well looked after. Okay, good.
And I think
Sounds like a foreign language. Well looked after. I'm like, what?
well looked after.
Yeah.
I think it's just that we come from very different homes. His mother never worked until the youngest child was 10. When I bring it up, he tells me I should do things the way his mother did, which makes me really resentful. Any tips to resolve this?
Right. Can you say the first sentence again? Just because I missed that one. The first sentence.
When I bring it up, he tells me I should do things the way his mother did.
Sorry, no, the first sentence of the whole question.
Okay, I get the feeling from my husband often that he doesn't think I am a good mother.
Okay, fine. And also, she didn't say if she worked. She must.
Right. So that's the question. Does that, what's the financial situation? Like, if he feels that she should be at home, it means that maybe he doesn't feel like he needs her parnasa, but there are women who like to work. So what do we do about that?
So yeah, we don't know the answer.
The age-old question.
Right. Is what?
Raising kids or working.
Right. Well, I don't know if she had a choice. She has a choice. We don't know. If you're listening still, please write in the answer to those two questions, whether you still work, whether you work, but I guess she probably does. Yeah. And what you do, and if you have to. Okay. So, or if you have to financial reasons, or you have to because you need to get out of the house and have some other project in your life, which is totally plausible, possible, whatever, meritorious, take care of yourself, whatever. So the question is about, let's just look at his constantly, regardless of any of the situations, if we don't get an answer to those questions, the crucial thing is, why does he think it's okay to make you feel badly about your parenting? Like, or what, you know what I'm saying? Like there's some kind of atmosphere in the home. Maybe you've created it, maybe he's created it, maybe he's wrong, maybe you're wrong. There's some kind of an atmosphere in the home where he finds it's totally fine to sort of make you feel slightly bad about something ongoingly forever. Like that's not how you take care of each other. It's just not how you take care of each other. And if look, we talk a lot about, are you a victim or are you, do you have a choice in the matter? A woman always has a choice. There's always something a woman can do. So now, if you look through and you're like, I'm always telling him how disappointed I am in his salary he earns. I'm always telling him how disappointed I am in him that he always loses things. By the way, men always lose things. So like, hello, like that's just what you married. It's not him. That's how men are. So for the most part, so look, there's some men who aren't like that, but I'm just saying we get harp on things and think that if we harp and harp and harp and harp and harp, one day we'll wake up and whoop, they finally listened and they're this other person. Not happening. Not happening, not nice, terrible way to raise a family, terrible way to have a relationship. It's just a bad vibe in the home, the bad feeling in the home. You want to be looking for things, you can spend your whole life finding the wrong things. You'll find a lot of them. And if someone looked at you, they would find a lot of them. You want to spend your energy and all of your strengths in finding things to build them up about I'm so grateful that you always like put your clothes back on the hanger. Maybe they don't do that. Find something. There's always something. I promise you. If you look at them, I love the way you gobble down all your food and finish everything on your plate and lick your plate, whatever. There's stuff you can find that you can compliment. And if you spend your life your relationship looking with him and looking for the things that are good. What's he doing at the table that's nice? What's he doing at work that's nice? Is he bringing home parnasa? Does he is he calls his friends and talks for hours instead of saying, why are you always on there for hours? Say, you're so good to your friends. Find the good. Ayin tov. Have an ayin tov towards your husband. And if you do that, it will greatly, greatly increase the odds of him having an iron toe toward you. What the wife brings into the home, the atmosphere the wife creates, you can make a huge difference in that. And it could be you're doing everything perfectly and he's just a meanie, okay, that could be true. But 99% chance there's stuff you can do to improve the environment in the home by not putting him down and looking for the good for in him that will help with the situation for sure. Now, in terms of him not feeling like you're a good mom, I think you ought to, in a very, very connected conversation with him, you're both well fed, well rested, you're not, there's not very heavy duty conflicts that are happening at the moment, and you go for a walk or you go out to eat or you sit down at the table or the kids go to bed and you sit on the couch for a few hours and plan a discussion with him. Probably a good idea, journal it, write it out what you're going to say and how you're going to say it and how you're not going to be mean in the conversation, how you're going to make it help him to hear it as easily and best as possible, and say something like, listen, I just want to talk to you about something. I I get that you really love how your mom raised kids. And I'm also love how your mom raised kids. You know why? She raised you. She raised you, and I love you just the way you are. But I'm a different person. I can't do it the way your mom does it. But here's what I want to tell you, sweetie. I can't tell you how painful it is for me to feel like I'm disappointing you in this area. It's painful. I feel like, I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know where to put myself. It makes me feel so badly that I can't make you proud of me and make you happy at me. And it's like every woman gets her chance of raising kids. And your mom had her chance, and she had your father. Your father's very different than you. Maybe everybody's different enough for you to be able to say this with honesty. Your father's very different than you are, and your father and your mother created you, and I'm very grateful to that. But I can't do the same with my kids because you're not the same father. I'm a different mother. And I'm not sitting there harping on you. Why aren't you more like your father, more like my father? It's just it's a unproductive way to think for you, and it's extremely, extremely painful for me. So I don't want to make a huge major case about this, and I don't want to, blame you and point you and make you feel badly about this. I just want to see if you can help me to figure out a way to circumvent this whole thing, to shut this down. This dynamic is very painful for me. And and I feel like I've mentioned this a bunch of times and nothing's really changed, mostly because it's hard for you to change your actions when your feelings underneath them are so anti me, and so for your mother, So it's like until you understand that that can never be, and all you're holding on and grabbing onto that feeling is what's causing the friction and causing your wife so much pain, until you realize that internally and say, I'm accepting my wife. God, you gave her to me. This is the way she is. And I'm accepting of it. I'm grateful for it. And I'm going to do everything in my power to support it and not put it down. And until you get to that place, please tell me how to live with this, because I really don't know what to do. So you understand where I'm going with this? It's a sharing of your emotion in a way, but it's also acknowledging how he feels and how he came to feel the way he felt. So that's I think going to be your best bet. And remember, having that, is doing the introspection to see what you can do to love him fully and to not withhold your love from him because he's not fitting your pictures of how he wants, and seeing having a iron toe for everything he does. And the second part is thinking about a conversation you can have with him that really breaks through all of it, that it's not the same old, same old. He's got a habit of doing that to you and he doesn't realize the pain he's causing you. So that needs to be expressed, and it must be expressed in the yummiest, warmest possible way you can. And if you're so angry and upset about it right now, you might have to wait a month to talk to him about it until you simmer down and calm down. Just because that conversation needs to be done from your heart to his heart. And if there's a lot of anger in your heart, he may not hear it as well. as effectively. Good.
Okay, so
Great
next
question, though.
question.
Thank you for bringing it in. And I hope I didn't, like you asked the question for me, hoping to get relief, and I just gave you things to do, but hopefully those things you do might be a little challenging, a little bit difficult, but if you do those things, I think you'll have a lot more success with it. Good luck.
Hey,
Okay.
so Hannah's asking, my husband used to be super caring. Recently, he has been much more abrupt and involved in his own world. There have been no major changes in his life. I really used to appreciate his care and concern for me. Any tips on how to get my old hubby back?
I'm sorry. That's sad. So something must have happened. People don't sort of change their personality or their character trait overnight for nothing. I'm trying to think. I mean, whether you had a kid, whether you moved, whether I suppose you would have said that if any of those changes had happened. Um,
I'm thinking even over the course of years, you have children, that's financial stress.
so you're saying he just changed. It seems shocking, but maybe it was a slow gradual. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. My thing about these types of issues is that when you get a thought in your mind and an opinion about something in your mind, then you start collecting all these evidences about it. You ever notice when you buy, like you never had a red car in your life and you bought a red car, and now you notice how many millions of red cars are in the street? So it's kind of like that. It could have been that he got, less caring, or he said a few things that hurt you or that made you upset. And then you started gathering every evidence about him not being caring, and you whitewashed or made the past thing he was perfect before. Neither of those is, it's probably not he was here, but before he was here of caring, and here he's low. It probably your memory is blown up a little. He's probably like that, and here he's probably not as bad. So I'm just saying that to help ease your mind, that you don't feel what's the word I'm looking for? You don't feel like there's some tragedy that happened in your life. It's probably not as bad as a difference as you may imagine. So that's just a little bit helping you to calm you down about the issue. But these kinds of things are best handled in a communication with your husband. It's not like you can shift your mindset and, or you can, blast him and, whatever. It has to be done very, very thoughtfully. You need to think about, what you're going to say, journal it. Even if you have a close confidant that is totally, totally supportive of marriage and totally supportive of you and whatever, you can have a conversation with them that says, can you just do a role play with me to see how this works out? You could talk to a friend about it. But the main thing is you're figuring out what you're going to say to your husband that he can hear, and you know him better than anybody. So if you say something like, you always not going to go over well. So it's thinking about what you want to say to your husband that he can actually hear, which is maybe his caring nature that you know him to be would wake up to saying something like, you should know something. When I married you, and for most of our married life, I really always marveled on what a caring person you are. Like, it always blew me away. And if you can, write down on your journal and then say to him, or if you can remember them off your top of your head. For instance, 2 years ago when we were at the vacation spot and everybody wanted to go to the beach and I just wasn't feeling up to it, and you turn to everybody and says, she's better off being home happy than coming and being miserable. And everybody let me stay home, let me stay in the vacation home while everybody went off and did their thing. That was so caring. So come up with 3, 5, 10 examples that you remember from the past, and tell him how much they meant to, in other words, how much they meant to you. You're showering him with approval for maybe you always thought it in your head, but you didn't verbalize it. And so it kind of just faded, as we know, all bracha comes from Shemayim through our husband, the conduit through our husband to us. This is Rav Moshe Cordovero. And so if you aren't thanking him, if you haven't spent all your time thanking him and appreciating how thoughtful and caring, he may not have any idea how important it is in your life. And so when it dropped or faded, it could be just because he didn't realize. So your job is now in that conversation is to reiterate all the things you appreciated about him from your past, anything you can find in the present, and say, I'm not quite sure what to do, and I was hoping you could tell me. It feels to me, I could be totally mistaken, but it feels to me like something shifted a little bit and now you're preoccupied with your work or preoccupied with the kids or preoccupied with, running our household or this charity you're working in or whatever it is that's bothering you, you know that better than I do. And I'm not sure what to do about it. And what you're doing is you're taking this problem, and I'm for those of you in listening, I'm cupping my hands and I'm handing the problem to my husband. You're handing it over. You're handing the bowl of problems to him, and seeing where he's going to take it. What's he going to do? That you're actually saying, this is the problem I have. Please help me to solve it. Help me to fix it. Men like to fix things. Okay. So the issue is, I have to tell you that I have been really blown away when I've coached people, walked people through this, how all over the board the answer is, what the husband answers. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples, and you see they're all over the mat. You never know what he's going to say. So it could be, he says, "Oh, I never realized. Huh. I'll really need to think about that. I didn't realize I was making you feel less cared for, or that I wasn't there for you, or whatever. I'll make note of it. That's fine." He could have a second answer he potentially could have is, "Oh, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. It's fine. It's the same. I love you just as much, whatever." And that feels a little dismissive. And the way to deal with that, by the way, if he says fine, you just let him think and process. If he says, if he's dismissing you, say, "Right now I feel dismissed. I feel invalidated, like my feelings aren't valuable. And what you're saying right now is hurtful for me or painful for me. Can you think of a better way to handle this than this?" And again, put the bowl back in his hands, but don't be shy to tell him. A lot of people won't say something because they're afraid if they admit that it makes them more vulnerable, and then someone can really hurt you. But if there isn't that vulnerability and that growth in trust, he can't trust you and he can't be vulnerable in front of you. So it is taking a chance, and you have to know your husband. If you have a vindictive, angry man for a husband, and you know that, then this might not be a good strategy. But for most people, if you say, you're saying it isn't a big deal and I'm being too sensitive, to me, it is a big deal. And to me, it doesn't feel like sensitivity. It feels real. So can we just solve this as if it's real? Like that. Okay, that's the second thing. Third thing he could say is, "Huh, wow, I didn't realize that. You know, there's this new employee at work who they came in under me, and he's gotten 2 promotions since he started working a month ago. And I'm feeling very, very threatened at work. I thought I was the right-hand man. I thought I was in line to become a partner with my boss in the company or whatever. And now this new hotshot, who really I don't even think he's a nice person or whatever. This person came on board, and I'm feeling like the ground could come out from under my feet. And I never shared it with you, so I didn't want you to get worried. I know how stressed you get out about this thing. I know how important stability is to you, but that's really, I could see where I'm totally preoccupied with that." And the wife is just like, "What?" Like, "What?" I'm so happy to know, because now she knows it's not, he doesn't love her as much. He doesn't care for as much. He's not as caring as he used to be. He's changing into worse character traits than what she married. All these things that go through a crazy wife's hand. I'm raising my hand because I'm also, we're all like that, it's like whatever. So there, I can't tell you how many times a completely outside of the box answer that wasn't expected was given in this situation, because I'm working with people, and I see it's just like, oh, that makes sense. The only way to discover that is by setting yourself up for a really awesome conversation with your husband. And don't rush it. Don't jump in it. Don't get off finish the ladies talk show today and say, "Okay, hello, meet me for dinner." Don't think about it, plan it, coordinate about it. Think about what he's going to say, how he's going to react, what you would say to compliment him. Like, write down 10 compliments so you can throw them in the course of the conversation to smooth out everything and make him feel like he's not being attacked. So, but that's a conversation that needs to be had, so you can come back. You can come back and not only you don't want, only want your hubby back. You want your hubby and your relationship to be at the next level. And I give you a bracha that you should have that koyach to do that and that bracha to have that. Okay. Wow. Amazing questions today, ladies. All very deep, but good. Okay.
Mean. Okay. Haviva's asking, I find it hard to take my husband seriously. Often he'll request things, but I don't see why it's important. So even if I do it, my thoughts are that he's making a big deal out of nothing. For example, unplugging things from the socket. How do I take his request seriously if I don't think it's important?
Very good. So you have to ask yourself, why would Hashem have you have a husband who wants you to unplug the socket? From what I understand, what she's saying is like, you use the toaster and then you go off. But he's saying unplug it. I can understand unplugging the iron in case someone left it on and a kid gets burned and whatever. But some people like all sockets unplugged from every, the charger for the phone and the this and that, So there is a reason. We don't know why Hashem made it that way. The recommended thing for something like that is just do it because you get huge reward for following the will of your husband. Huge reward for following the will of your husband. We know this from Baba Ben Buta, whose wife, how did it go? She said, "Oh, take the coconuts and bonk them on the sidewalk, on the curb," but the curb also meant the Rav, and so she took two melons, I think, something, and bonked them on the head of the Gadol Hador, the Rav of the generation. And he looked at her and he said, "Why did you do that? Like, are you crazy? Like, what's my widow?" And she said, "Oh, that's what my husband told her to." They spoke different languages, the husband and wife, and he meant to do it on the curb. So my husband told me to to do. She said, my husband, whatever the language was, my husband told me to bonk these on the Rav, and he understood he meant on the curb. But even though she did the wrong thing, Rav Baba Bambuta turned to her and he said, "In the merit of following your husband's will, you will have two sons that will be as great as, I think, great as Rav Moshe Rabbeinu. I can't remember, but anyway, I'm bad at these exact stories. But anyway, that's the story. So it is just absolutely clear to us from our Chazal, from our Masorah, Shalom Bayis Masorah. It is absolutely clear that if you follow your husband's will, no matter how crazy and cuckoo and weird and whatever, if you follow his will, bracha will pour into the home. So as you're pulling these stupid plugs out and you're going behind the couch to pull that one out, and you're, whatever it is that he's making you do, you can just keep that in your heart, like, hey, bracha is going to come into my house. That your dress that you're getting for the chasana, and everyone's got this wearing a mauve, and you only can find pink and rest in this and whatever. That day you'll fall into a mauve chasana dress, something like, you know what I'm saying? Like bracha will come to you. Guaranteed, absolutely guaranteed. So that's, first of all, that should help ease your mind. The second thing is that why would Hashem have you do that? Maybe in a Gilgul, in a past life, you were like the one who was like making people dig holes and fill holes, and who knows what your tikkun is from your that you need to do in your life, in your lifetime, to raise your neshama back where it needs to be and to make amends for things. We don't know that. It's above my pay grade, this whole spiritual thing, and I'm just including that for those of you who understand that there's a lot more depth to our understanding of the spiritual world than we can ever understand. And if you just tick it up to, well, I don't get it, but fine, that hopefully will help you. But the third thing, and this is the most important thing for you to keep in mind, is that if you're using your seichel to determine whether what your husband says is right or wrong or this or that or whatever, it's kind of like usurping. It's not that you shouldn't use your brain. You're his right-hand man helping him, and you need your brain. Your brain, an opinion is wanted and desperately needed, okay? But not if it's trying to undo everything he's telling you to do. It could be that you read an article and it says, There was a concern in the mid-century that said that if things are still left plugged in, people could overhear you, or I mean, there's all these there's paranoid people, whatever, or that the electricity goes to, there's all these things. But the article says that that's a bubba mice, a myth, and it's not really true. And you could show him that, and maybe then that erases whatever he has. It could be a safety issue. It could be, who knows where it came from him. And you might even ask him, where did it come from you? And why do you have it? And what's your logic behind on it, or not? That's kind of might be too challenging. The bottom line I'm trying to say here is that you second guessing what he desires and saying, and possibly that's a good, I'm following him because I believe I agree with him, or I'm following him because I don't agree with him. It's not your business. It's like saying, it's like a hoax from Hashem where, we have to do the paraduma. Why? Who knows? Who knows? Same with kashrus, frankly. Everyone says, oh, so we don't get trichinosis is why we don't eat pig. That's after the fact. We're not meant to go there. We're meant to feel that this is what Hashem said. This is what we do. Is With your husband, it's a little different because he says something and you have a right to question it. And, a little bit, you can sort of try and help him. Or whatever. Look, if it takes you 5 hours a day to unplug the things and replug them and it's messing up your whole life, then you have for sure should make a whole argument as to why you shouldn't be doing it. But if it's taking 2 minutes here and 3 minutes there and 5 minutes there, remember the bracha that you're going to get from it. So I hope this is helpful. There's a lot to think about this. And again, this answer isn't just for the lady who's annoyed at her husband about the plugging or whatever, because everyone can say, oh, well, my husband doesn't have that. No, this is for everybody who's listening, for you to understand that there are things that our husband asks us to do that we may not agree with, avidly may not agree with. That doesn't mean we should just not do them. It means we need to either just do them because they're simple and easy and okay, fine, who cares? Or that we need to think very carefully on how to say it in a way that our husband can hear. And if you say all your logic and at the end of it, he still says, no, I want you to plug it. So, fine. You're going to get the bracha. Okay. Wow. Good question. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I'm just trying to think if we have time for one more question. We have time for one question. Let's give a nice brief answer.
Okay.
Okay, so Hanala's asking, I know you answered this in the past, but it's a good chazara. I'm trying hard to stay motivated and positive in my marriage, but I can't get over past resentments. What can I do?
Watch the ladies' talk show on resentments. We have a lot of material. Unfortunately, women are resentment beings, So there's a lot of shows you can watch, the extensive library on ladiestalkshow.com, also on Torah Anytime. Go Torah Anytime. And there's an extensive shows we have on resentments. The biggest thing about resentments, and maybe just get yourself a journal if you're a journaling type. If you're not, maybe you can make voice notes or something like that, but somehow to get down out of your head where it sort of sits and like whatever, get it out of your head and onto something else of what happened, why it upset you, why you're having a hard time getting over bearing the grudge, getting over the resentment, what things happened from your childhood that make this particularly difficult and hard for you to deal with his whatever his actions are, how they mimic or press your buttons from the past. So if you're looking very, very deeply at what those issues are, and analyzing them, that's really a good place to start. I do have a whole section in Marriage Secrets on a whole chapter on getting over resentments. And if it's keeping you from closeness with your husband, then that you definitely have to read that. You have to work on this, make this a big priority in your life. And good for you for even being willing to own up to it and admit it and to work on it. Okay, this is Leah. Oh, homework. Hold on a sec. The homework for this week, one time between now and next week, the homework is to think about anything that is keep in the way of you and your husband connecting, right? Anything that's bothering you, and make a commitment in your own mind, in your own heart, to have a conversation with your husband about it. Okay. And then plan it well. Okay. So it's to think about a conversation and to have a conversation between now and next week, even if it's something little. Probably better to start with something little. Okay. This is Leah Richheimer for the Ladies Talk Show. We'll see you next week.